Hi, I'm Andy from Dremel UK. Thank you for joining us on our last live stream of the day. Because we've got a lot of expertise when it comes to being a maker, running businesses, creating content in the building, I thought it would be a really good idea if we do a bit of a roundtable session, and we've got some questions to go through for our different makers on here. And if you guys have any questions, please feel free to ask. You'll get an idea of what expertise we have on the couch when I pass the mic over. Again, I do the user marketing for Dremel UK, so I'm technically a marketeer. I can give you a bit of a brand perspective of what my expectations are when working with influencers and creating content. My next guest.
Thank you, Andy. Hi, I'm Kez from Spirit and Bear. I'm a woodworker and artist. And obviously I work with Andy from Dremel.
Hi, I'm Daisy Tempest. I am a guitar maker, which is referred to as a luthier. It's the French word for all maker of stringed instruments. I started my own business after training for about 4 or 5 years. I started my own business earlier this year, and now I work for myself in London in my workshop.
Thank you very much. Hi, I'm Rob. I'm the digital content manager here at Bosch Power Tools. I've been behind the cameras so far today, but previously I used to work for the influencer Matt Esley, producing content for him, building storyboards, building websites, developing the business, you name it, sort of I was part of that. So that's where my experience is in terms of the media, video production side of things. A bit more technical than these guys. Not saying you're not technical. Just, I want to get that out there.
No, not technical at all.
Cool. So this is we'll start off the first subject of being a maker, being an influencer. The first questions will be directed at Kez and Daisy. So what made you do what you do, and where'd you get your inspiration from, and what keeps you motivated as makers and influencers?
What made me do what I do? I kind of stumbled over woodwork, if I'm honest. My previous job was completely different, and I just sort of joined Phil in the workshop, and we kind of went from there, really, within the woodworking. I might have drawn a lot of inspiration from tattoo art and tattoo artists, and yeah, kind of different elements of certain things and kind of bring them together to make my own sort of picture of things, I suppose, and art. Yeah. But yeah, keeping myself motivated. Deadlines are a really good thing. Kenny said that the other day, but he was like, yeah, deadlines are definitely something that keeps me motivated to move it along. So, over to you.
Thank you. What got me into it? I was playing music before I could talk, and that's an ABBA song, isn't it? Yeah, I was always drawn to music. My dad's a musician, my mum's an artist, so you could say I put the two together. I always loved making things. I cut my teeth on a film set, making costumes, using unusual materials, actually. It's leaves, Canadian maple leaves. And I found working with live materials such as leaves or wood, I found it really engaging. I fell in love with the guitar when I was 16, and my brother taught me guitar, and when he died I wanted to do something that reminded me of him, and that's how I fell into guitar making. And I realized that it was a job that could give me a lifestyle doing a lot of the things that I love, for example, photography, marketing, videography. All of those things came very naturally to me, but also making, being my own creative director, and also traveling, all of these things that this job gives me. So that's kind of what keeps me inspired and motivated as well.
Cool. It's like pass the parcel, except I know what prize I'm getting. I dabble in crafting, being a Dremel person. I do love the tools. I do love getting involved in it, and I have made a lot of mistakes with them in my time. Whether I have over-tightened a vise and broken a glass jar I was trying to play on, not used permanent marker and wiped away the design from dusted, little mess-ups. when I'm doing crafting is, I mean, you don't have to tell us about any big cock-ups you had, but what lessons have you learned from being a maker or influencer that has really made you think, okay, this has actually helped me? If there aren't any, great. But is there anything that you would like to impart on as advice, even if it is a little thing of use permanent marker when you're wiping away dust on things, or don't over tighten things, as it turns out, or don't set fire to your workshop. That is always a good one too. Don't wipe your chalk pen off. Yeah. So is there anything that you've encountered you've thought, okay, I've actually learned from this, I can build on what I do?
That's a tough one. I think you learn every single day with whatever you're doing. You kind of learn new things and new ways. So it's kind of hard to sort of pinpoint particular things. It's just, I don't know, every day's a school day, you know, and in an artist's journey, everybody's journey is different. So it's kind of, you know, sort of learning, you kind of learn yourself. Being told something's not always so easy. You know, you kind of have to make the mistake yourself, I think. But, yeah, that's about it, really.
I think the most valuable lesson that I learned when I was learning was understanding the way that I learned. And for me, it was doing. And in my first apprenticeship, I was taught by looking. And I figured out in my second apprenticeship that I was not a watcher, I was a doer. And the moment I accepted that about myself, that made it a lot easier to progress quicker. Also, having sharp tools, even if it takes a day to sharpen all your tools, just do it. Yeah, that's all I have to say.
As a content creator, is there anything?
I think,
Go on then. Yeah, I'll chime in. I think the biggest thing, whether it's producing something with woodwork or producing a photo or producing a piece of video content, it's realizing that you can so easily accomplish what other people have done if you're just willing to learn, if you're just willing to put in a bit of time, a bit of practice. Because so many people just want to jump in and create the most professional standard straight away without putting in the effort and without looking up the plenty of free YouTube tutorials to sort of get this done to begin with. And I think there's just a lot of patience that's required for anything that's artistic, physically or virtually. So I guess my point there is to just make sure you're willing and sort of happy to learn and put in the time.
Is there a difference? This is a nice, short, easy one. Is there a difference between being a maker and an influencer?
I'm not sure. A maker obviously makes things, and an influencer, there are so many things in the world that and people that influence, not necessarily as a job, but you know, it could be sort of something like a friend buys a pair of shoes and you go, oh, I like those, and you know, you're influenced by what they have bought, if that makes sense. So you kind of go, oh, I want something similar. So it's kind of, there is a difference, but I don't know. I can't really pinpoint what, if that makes sense or doesn't make sense. But yeah, a maker obviously makes things and influences, but there are lots of influences in life regardless.
Thanks. I think there's a massive difference between being a maker and influencer. And I think the word influencer in today's society is very loaded, and it suggests a content creator, right? And I think since I've started to grow my Instagram page, for example, I've needed to split my day about 50-50. One part of that is making, and the other half is being an influencer in terms of making sure I'm providing engaging content, making sure I'm engaging with the right people, be it, you know, on private messages or publicly on a comment thread or something. That it is a constant, it's a job, you know, being an influencer, as being a maker is a job. They're two separate jobs. And if you're lucky enough to be able to make two work, then I think it becomes more fulfilling. For me personally, I find it more fulfilling and engaging to be able to do one alongside the other, but I do think that they are separate things.
I think you pretty much covered that. I'll
Yeah.
pass it back. Yeah,
All right.
no. That's a great one.
Cool, so let me get rid of my technical bit of paper. There we go. So what do we want to do first? Oh, let's get Rob involved a bit more. So let's talk about creating engaging content. Sorry, and obviously all three of us. Or four. There's four of us here. All three. So when it comes to creating engaging content, do you need lots of expensive equipment and expertise?
Oh, that's a long way. Categorically, just no. I mean, realistically, the more how to explain it? You can become potentially more. You can become more creative with certain tools. It's true. However, the same works with limitations. So it's all well and good saying, yes, I've got a fancy £2,000-3,000 camera, maybe more. But if I'm useless at creating stories, if I'm useless at creating a narrative that's going to be engaging, that's going to keep audience attention throughout whatever the content might be, whether that's a video, whether that's a podcast, or even an image. If an image is just dull and you've managed to take it on a £10,000 camera, no one's going to care that you took it on that piece of equipment. You didn't create a good photo. So in terms of building your brand to begin with, if you want to get into content creation, if you want to start building yourself up to potentially be an influencer or just make yourself more well known within the community, just use your phone. They are so advanced nowadays. You've got the slow motion aspect if you really wanted it. You don't need it. They don't need much light to work well, which is normally the issue you get if you get a more expensive camera. And they're just portable. Slip it in your pocket, get a close-up shot of something, put it back in, keep making. Do it again, do it again, do it again. Suddenly you've got the footage to make a great video. Your only next step then is to just upgrade your audio and just get a microphone to plug in your camera, you're sorted. I used to use multiple cameras all of the time. When I was developing my own content, being a musician, I was like, right, I need multiple cameras in different places all the time. And I ended up just having to spend hours editing and hours slaving over this stuff, which arguably no one else is going to pick up on. So now that stuff sits on a shelf in a drawer. I don't use it. I just pick up my phone and just go, I know this is going to get me a result that no one could tell the difference in terms of quality, and I can tell my story, I can tell my narrative, and create a more interesting piece of engagement faster and more effectively. So it doesn't take expensive equipment is the short way of saying that. Yeah. I shall pass it back down.
Daisy, Kez, would you disagree?
I think you did it beautifully. Summarise that.
I absolutely agree. I think I prefer my phone over the expensive camera that we have. So just stick it on a tripod and away you go.
Sure. I have to actually say from a branding point of view as well, don't get me wrong, I love perfect content as a marketeer. I look at what some makers do, what some agents do and go, oh, that's amazing. I do think and notice that sometimes actually puts off people becoming makers or they think, oh my God, that is beautiful, but I can't do that because it looks picture perfect. And sometimes the raw stuff, when I create content, I'm usually using my phone, and that's more engaging. And I do feel more like, actually, I can achieve this. All right, it may not be perfect. And going back to your points, actually, where things take practice and time, I think sometimes it can be the same with content creation, in that you're not going to start off perfect. No one's going to win. I'm going to say Wildlife Photographer of the Year because it's the only photography competition I can think of. But you're not gonna win that like that. Okay, so yeah, start off, practice, and decide. I think where you want to be and what you want to do.
These famous artists didn't start out with the most expensive paintbrushes.
Exactly. True. How do you ladies as makers get the best out of your workspace to create content?
That's a really weird question. I have a workshop. I don't know. I'll let you have that one.
Yeah, I think I know what you mean. Are you referring to the fact that we're women and within the workplace it's not as usual? I thought that's what the question was.
No, sorry, I meant organisation-wise. When you're planning.
Oh, I see. I thought you started with as ladies, which I was like immediately, I was like, that's all right, no, it's fine. Okay, how do I get the most out of my workshop? My workshop's in a building full of other craftspeople, which is like the best thing. It's a makerspace, yeah. And it's in London as well, which means that I have access to gigs, I have access to events, I have access to networking, which is fantastic. So in terms of that, I get a lot of benefits from having a workshop specifically in London, which I think is worth mentioning because I've worked in the sticks before during my training, and that wasn't as valuable. So I make the most out of my workspace by exploring the outside, but also keeping it tidy. I think maybe, yeah, that was what you were saying as well. But
I'm not a lady in the workplace.
That's
so
true. Not that was not what I meant.
It's not what I meant. Okay. Well, you have dealt with me long enough to know that I.
Well, this just went over workshop.
Well, do you have a tidy workshop?
Yes, I have a fill.
Fair point. Yeah. If everyone had a fill, then that's Kez's other half. If you didn't know that, if everyone had a fill, then yeah. Going on to platforms, because there's loads of different social media platforms out there, and every few years there does seem to be a new one pop up. TikTok was the one that came up quite recently, and it's the next best thing. Everyone's on it. Are there platforms that you think work better for certain influencers and makers?
Yeah, I like Instagram, I must admit, and the community on there for makers and stuff are absolutely brilliant. You know, Facebook is pretty much okay. I find that one okay, but yeah, like you say, TikTok, I'm not so fond personally, but you know, it does work for some people, and I think if you find your platform, then you know that works for you, then stick with it. You know, you don't need to keep hopping if it doesn't work. You know, you might, if you find a good platform, go for it.
Yeah, I don't look at platforms for how they work for me. I look at platforms based on how they look, or how they work for my target audience, which for my guitars is high net worth individuals who want to spend a bit of extra cash on a handmade instrument. So something like TikTok with a demographic that is under 18 primarily, that is not my target, so I do not waste time with it. However, there is going to come a point where those people grow up and they may be looking to invest. So there's also that thing that is at the back of my mind, like, is it worth putting in the time? And it's really a trade-off. But things like Instagram, I think I've received about 90% of my work from Instagram. So I look at those numbers because I do ask clients when they approach me, I say, how did you find me? But so I do use Instagram and I put a lot of work into that. But also print media. I think I've got work through that, and that's been great because I think, again, my clients, I'm looking at the demographic, they're a little bit older. They do read the newspaper on the weekends, you know, so I also put effort into that, which is not necessarily a platform, but it is, I do utilize things like the platforms to make those connections. For example, I will email or Instagram message the editor of a publication that I want to be a part of, and I'll explain why. So I think they all tie into each other, but I don't look at what I like doing, I look at what I need to do to get those orders, if that makes sense.
I'll take it. I think it's important with the amount of social media and social media platforms that exist nowadays to not spread yourself too thin. I think it's very easy to go, right, there's a new one, let me add that to the 5 that I've already got, and I've got to reformat the content for this, I've got to reformat the content for that, when in reality, that time you've spent working on those pieces of content, to use the same word again, could have been used to make something new, to craft something new, to inspire the audience on a channel that you've put a bit more passion into. I think from past experience, I've found that YouTube has a great community if you can get this core audience following you, if you get this core audience who sort of recognize your sort of cadence of video output, and then you've got this great baseline, but sometimes it's a really difficult start there. Instagram is a bit more. You can curate your gallery. I can't remember what is it called on Instagram. Like your main, is it just called your feed?
Yeah.
You just call it your feed, yeah. You can curate a bit more of a gallery on your feed in terms of the artistic style, the artistic approach, so people know what they're getting into as soon as they follow you, rather than having to watch 100 videos. And Facebook tends to be more leaning towards the side of community, where you've got these quite in-depth discussions. Although they like their money, so you struggle to actually get your posts out to people without putting in a bit of revenue first in order to get people to hear about it. So regardless of what platform you use, each one can be successful in its own right. TikTok, again, is great, especially for newcomers with the target audience that you suggested earlier, because they like to push the numbers of new people earlier on. They like to say, right, let's get the creators hooked on our platform with the high numbers, and hopefully you can use those high numbers to your advantage. But whatever happens, stick to one, don't spread thin, and you'll find more success in the long run.
So I'm realizing that you've answered a lot of my questions already, so we're 2 down already. Brilliant. I think it's important for people to understand how to interact with brands as influencers, because obviously the influencer community is a big part of Dremel and my business, and other brands. I know my colleagues at Bosch, they have lots of influence as well. We all tend to work with influencers differently. There's a lot of restraints depending on, it could be budget to the type of influencers you want to work with. We all have different strategies, essentially, is what I'm trying to say. And we do get quite a few people emailing, say, oh, I'm an influencer, I want to really work with you, and we have to filter them down. So how do you guys choose which brands you want to work with? Is it ones that you're already working with? Is it favorite brands that you've worked with for years, or do you go out and search and think, actually, no, we can have a beneficial collaboration going on?
I've never actually searched for a brand, and it was something that I never actually wanted to do. It was Phil that talked me into working with you. I was going to say no, I must admit. It wasn't something that I wanted to be tied to, but I am actually pleased that I am working with you now, I must admit. Yeah, no, I've had a great time this past year or so. But yeah, I mean, I get brands contact us, and I think I must turn down more than I ever said. Well, I've only ever said yes to 2. So, you know, it's just, again, it's stretching too thin, working with too many brands and too many things. But yeah, it's, you know, I don't know. I think when you collaborate with a brand, it's got to work for you. And you going back to what you're saying about your feed and curating your own feed, you know, it's got to work with your feed as well. You can't, I mean, yesterday, an activewear place emailed me saying, you'd fit perfect. That's not going to fit on my feed. I am not going out into the workshop in activewear, you know, so that is a hard no, you know, so yeah. You've just got to find the brands that work for you, and that they, you know, you work for them as well. It's got to be mutual, I think.
I think from the get-go for me, it was strategic. It was business. It was pragmatic. When I first started my apprenticeship, for example, I didn't have the money to buy any decent hand tools, but I didn't want to go down B&Q and buy like a plane for a tenner. You know, I wanted the best, and the way I got around that was through a collaboration. And I learned some skills and designed the Christmas card for Lee Nielsen, and in return they sent me some really beautiful tools. And for me, that collaboration worked because instantly I looked at them and I knew that they spoke of quality, and my work needs to speak of quality as well, and therefore I need to speak of quality. So I can't be using products which are substandard. I need to be using the best in the industry, and the way that I get around that is to offer my services, which I've spent a lot of time building up, as Rob said, you know, YouTube tutorials, learning how to do good videography, learning how to draw from my mum, who's an artist, you know, finding ways to make yourself invaluable to these brands, because it will benefit you in the end. and also things that I don't like thinking about, like buying clothes that are going to do me good. I work with Finisterre, for example, who is a brand who provide workwear for me, and they're fantastic, and it reaches a different audience if they post a picture of me wearing it. So that is marketing going on in the background that I don't have to think about. But also that just takes care of things that I don't want to be focusing my time on, like going shopping for workwear that's going to do me good. So there's that. But, you know, will I work with a brand just because I need something small? No, because I need to weigh up the time and whether it will benefit me to put in the time to help them back. So for me, it's all very strategic, and it requires a bit of thought, but it does kind of come naturally. I know when I get an email through from a brand whether it's going to be a yes or a no almost immediately. But I think it can be very valuable, especially when you're starting out, to offer your services out to, you know, in an engaging in a slightly different way, to make you stand out. And yeah, I think, yeah, I mean, I have a really nice collection of hand tools that I didn't, you know, I got because I drew some pictures. You know, it was pretty cool. So yeah, I'm big advocate for collaboration with the right people.
Bit difficult for me, considering I don't really. Well, I guess I have worked with a fair few with Matt in terms of sponsorships and those sort of deals, but it's funny because I'm literally sitting here because of the branding, because of the connection, because of the trusting relationship that existed with Bosch. So my job with Matt was essentially as an assistant in whatever he was doing, whether that was videography, whether that was woodworking, it didn't really matter. But I knew that he had this relationship with Bosch. I got to experience all of the Bosch tools all of the time. I'll get onto Dremel in a bit, but point being is, whatever the brand is, whoever you're working for, you've got to realize that they're authentic. You've got to realize that they have your best interests at heart. And I wouldn't be sitting here if that wasn't the case with Bosch. I know that Matt has done some, I worked, sadly to say, on some sponsorship deals, like with Raid Shadow Legends, if you've seen those YouTube adverts at the start. And we just went, you know what, let's just do this because we want to do the fun side of video editing. It was less about building the brand on that. It was just let's do this, let's have a bit of fun. But for the long-term stuff, it's got to be something that's got to be authentic. It's got to be something where a trust can be built over time. And without that, you're just getting yourself into a toxic situation.
Thank you very much. I realize some of these questions are potentially for me, maybe. Not that I wrote them myself. It's all about me. Great. No, because I'm sitting on the other side of it as a brand who goes out there and looks for influencers or comes back. So, from my point of view, I'm restricted a lot by strategy and budget and things. Working with my Bosch colleagues is quite interesting because they have a slightly different strategy than we do, and they look at it from project to project. This is my home and garden or DIY colleagues, and they will think, right, our theme for Q4 is home improvements. They will go and find the influencers that they think fit the brand and that they'll pay for the project, and then it's gone. They'll take the content. Whereas I don't have that ability, being a smaller brand in the UK. And actually, I think it works better for the brand because it means we have to build relationships, and there's a bit more open and honest. Because sometimes we do get messages from potential influencers who see a big brand name, and sometimes I read their emails thinking, you've got dollar signs in front of your eyes. And immediately, I think as you said, Daisy, sometimes I read hi, I really want to work with you, and think, this isn't going to work. Because you're thinking your expectations are out of line to what mine are. So I do think that there definitely has to be a lot of honesty from my point. I like to make sure that when we do make initial contact, it's, look, we can do X, Y, Z. I can't do anything outside of that. And normally you get a thank you very much. or no thank you. But I also like the fact that we have built a small community of influencers and makers in our Misfits. I mean, you're a lot of fun to work with. Sometimes you're a bit of a pain, but in a good way. In a good way, you make my days a lot brighter, which is fun because I get to see you guys grow as influencers. Not saying that it's all a Dremel. It's not. It's you guys doing what you do best, and it's really cool seeing you on that journey. So we do get I think we do miss out sometimes on potential makers because they think they're too small for us. And I think, and I have judged my Bosch colleagues for doing this sometimes, and they look at someone's numbers and go, nah, you're not big enough for us.
Obviously, a business like yourself works in 4 quarters of the year. Now, if somebody was to approach you and you were at the end of your quarter and you weren't sort of in a sort of place with your budget and you said no, would that always be a no, or would that sort of come back to me in sort of like 6 weeks time when my budget is back in again as such? Is that sort of something that then maybe it would be a yes?
Definitely, I would still have a look at the influencer. I mean, I have a terrible memory, as you know, so I often say, can you come back to me in a few months' time, because I will probably forget. I do have the marketing side of the business to run on as well. But no, definitely, if I look at it, and it really pains me sometimes when I have to go, I can't work with you. I'd love to. But depending if you're a big influencer or a small influencer,
sometimes
we
you
can
can't right now.
Exactly, we can find a way to do it, whether that's, okay, you've only got a few hundred followers now, but actually I like what you're doing. I really think you fit our brand. Okay, I'm not going to pay you big money. It's just not going to happen. I can't justify it. But what can we do to help you get there? What can I provide? Is it expertise? Is it products? I mean, products is an easy one for us. But it's how can we help you and make you grow? Because you're going to create some content that we love, whether it's studio perfect or on your phone perfect. It's engaging. We really like it. So say don't be afraid of approaching brands, but just understand that you need to understand what we're trying to do and ask those questions. Don't be afraid to. I don't expect you to understand our strategy straight away, but ask questions. Put feelers out there, and it could be, okay, not now, but in a few months, a few weeks, few years, whatever time.
What makes you as a brand go, I like that person? What sort of sparks the interest from you?
Authenticity in the content. Please don't ask me to explain that because I've used a big word and I'm like, I know what it means. I realize I'm rambling. I apologize. Although I love the fact that I have got Rob on the end who's joined the dark side now. So well done, Rob. He's a big brand corporate stooge like the rest of us. No, I think you can get a really good feeling by looking at someone's feed and how they present themselves, and especially with what makers yourselves do, you can also get a feel of, are they, going back to the question, are you a maker or an influencer? This person's a maker. They really love what they're doing, and the influencing side is obviously important, but I kind of get the feeling that the making is what got them into it. So I'm really looking for that authenticity and that. Okay, again, some of our users might look at you and go, oh, I'll never get there. But it's difficult to explain, the content that you're creating, can they see a process of how you got there? Are you, even silly little things like silly little things, looking at the way you respond to people as well. I mean, if someone goes, oh, I wouldn't do it that way. I've seen some influencers go off on one. I'm like, well, I can't work with you because it's inappropriate. And I can't trust you with what you're going to do with
They're a brand representative.
with my brand representative. But as Dave said, if you're spending time actually saying, even if it's, great, thanks for the feedback, or explaining, no, I did it this way because, and I don't expect you to justify yourself, but you can see that you're wanting to teach people as well. And I think as a brand, that's kind of what we want to do. We want to teach users skills and how to use the tools. So that was a very long answer. I apologize for that. Would anyone like to jump in? Because I have talked a lot about brands. Any other questions? Sorry. Haha.
Keep talking.
Yeah,
It was kind of a question and a question. Sorry.
Yeah, no. I think it's interesting because we do. Again, it is a bit of personal choice. Sometimes we do go, oh, oh damn, we need someone who's good at this. Let's go and find them. Like cosplayers, we only started working with because our US team went, oh wow, cosplay is massive in the US and they're using Dremel. Why did we not know this? So we then went out and looked for cosplayers, which when my other half found my internet history looked very, very strange. So don't be careful when you're looking for cosplayers. But no, it was one of those niches that we didn't know about, so we had to go and find out. And we're approaching cosplayers that fit our branding. So we do get to know them a bit more. We tend not to throw money at it at Dremel, which sometimes is a good or a bad thing. But we really want people who are, okay, let's have a relationship here. Let's have a collaboration. It's not just here's a check or here's product. It's okay, what can we do? Do you need help from?
That does make a difference. That makes
a
real big difference. Sorry. Obviously, we've collaborated with with 3 now. 2 that had stayed, but one was very much here, and we're like, I don't want it. I don't want all that. You know what I mean? But yeah, I must admit, your setup has got to be the best one. Don't get a big head.
So yeah, it's definitely it's got to work for you as well. There are those times when you need a favor and you don't help out someone who is just constantly unhelpful or not unhelpful or not very helpful. Same.
Yeah.
But it's definitely about, okay, how can I? Even if you're a massive influencer, it's a bit like, okay, well, how is Dremel going to help you? I mean, we can't do everything to push you, but what can I do? And it's a bit more account managing really and people managing. I feel in the way that we do it. The Misfits is more like herding cats, which keeps me on my toes and is fun. But again, it's even if it's a one-off project with an influencer, where's the relationship there? Because we might want to work together in future, and if it's not going to work for you, I would much rather you tell me now and we'll stop the collaboration than rather you doing something you don't want to do and you hate doing because you think, oh, I don't want to work with that arse at Dremel again or Bosch or whatever because all they did was ask and ask and ask. Let's be, right, what are my expectations? What are your expectations? How can we grow? Yeah, how can we grow this? Again, I've talked a lot. Let's move on. It's gone. Oh, this is going to be fun. Encouraging diversity in the maker community. This is a minefield.
Just stay further back.
I am involved in the maker community because of my job, and I think it's really, really cool, but I am often an outsider because technically I'm working in marketing a lot. So sometimes I dabble in and I dabble out. And the great thing I see is people from all different backgrounds doing loads and loads of different things. But sometimes I go to some shows or we get some feedback and it is kind of, it's male dominated. There's not many young people coming through, people from different backgrounds. It's harder for female makers sometimes. And I have to kind of check myself and go, that's not saying it doesn't happen, but because I'm coming in and out and I work with people like you, I'm like, that's not what I see. So what is it like being on the inside and seeing that? Do you think there are lots of different people doing different things, and how do we encourage anyone to become a maker? And I realize that is a massive question that is probably loaded a little bit, so I'm going to pass over.
Thanks. I don't quite know what to say to that. That's all right. A female maker in the community. I don't see that I'm any different to anybody else. The community that surround us, I've never had any issues with. Being female, I've always been treated just the same as everybody else, which is respectfully good. I like that, So I don't know. It's just I've never had any issues, so I can't really speak of any. I don't know whether you have. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I knew this question was coming. That's why I thought you were asking it earlier. And I've been thinking a lot about it, and I do think a lot about it because I have a different experience to you guys. I
don't say that I'm never saying that it doesn't happen.
Oh, no, I didn't think...
I've not had the experience of that, I must admit. So.
No, that's okay. I mean, guitar making is a particularly male-dominated industry. Yeah. And it's really hard when you get messages on Instagram, like the kind of stuff I get. And I was, for example, it's, I think it's jealousy, because as a female maker, I do get a lot of people being like, that's an interesting story, that's an interesting angle, and I do use that to my advantage. I'm the first one to admit that I do benefit sometimes from that, but women should be benefiting from that, because it's really hard to get in and it's hard to stay in. So by raising awareness, I feel a responsibility to mention, hey, look, I am a woman and I am doing this. What are you going to do about it? Even the other day, I had this colleague of mine who I thought was friendly with me. I had a piece in the Financial Times about my company, purely down to my own hard work, not because I'm a woman, not because anything, just because I worked hard and did everything. But he then unfriended me on Facebook and basically wrote a really long post devaluing my hard work, which really hurt me. And I thought I was pretty bulletproof. So I wrote to him and I said, this is why women don't feel comfortable coming into the industry, because we don't feel like we are accepted sometimes. And in my first apprenticeship, I worked with a man and I found it extremely challenging. Sexism in the workplace was always there. And then I had the experience of working with a woman who hadn't really experienced any sexism in the guitar making industry, because she, I think, even in the last 10 years, I think internet trolls have really upped their game. So she started out when it wasn't perhaps as common to receive so many messages, but she didn't have that. She had a similar experience to you. She's got limited, and I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's because I put myself out more as an influencer and I post pictures of myself working, but it's really difficult. But it has opened some doors for me, as I say, but like it should be opening doors for me, because so many women never got the opportunity to do the stuff that I'm doing. Because
it's the power of social media now, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
You've got the power of social media. You've got the power of social media now, and obviously, women that can do are able to do because they've got the power of that. So I think they're being seen more, So, but like you say, the opportunity as well being in there.
Yeah, one thing I also will say is that I've noticed that tools are made for men.
Trousers.
Like
Work trousers.
Tools. I'm not necessarily talking about power tools because obviously it's different, but hand tools, they're made for men, and that is something that I'm really I struggle with, and it's just a sign of, like, even that kind of thing, when your tools don't fit, it feels really ostracizing. Is that a word? Ostracizing? Isolating. It's a constant struggle, like, honestly. And I hope in the future it will become easier. Like with my company, I will hire women where I can. I will prioritize women over men. I don't know if that's a PC thing to say, but I think we're owed it. I think it's been so many years that men have had the upper hand. I'm very okay with saying I will prioritize women. So that's my experience. That being said, I have so many colleagues who are men who are amazing. It's just that odd one or two which just, because of your gender, they don't think that they don't think you can do a good job, and it's sad and it's hard, but it's you push on, don't you? And working with Dremel over perhaps some of my colleagues who are male, it's like, okay, you value my work, and I feel proud to have been asked to work with you. So yeah.
I suppose I've been quite lucky in that sense.
Yeah, it's good. I am I cannot really. I'm a middle-aged-ish, getting there, white male. So for me to go, oh no, we need to encourage by doing this, I haven't got a clue because I haven't experienced it, which is it's shocking when I do hear it because I see this amazing community that is always willing to help each other, and I don't, to be honest, from my corporate evilness, I don't care where you're from. I just want good content. That's what I want. That's going to push my brand. So when I see the negative reaction, I'm like, what is your problem, mate? And we get it a lot, slightly differently, with the trolls on especially Facebook. Gotta love it. And I wish I had the spare time to follow brands that I clearly don't like and comment negatively every bloody day. I really wish I had that. I just think bore off. Yeah, why? I'm too busy to do this. I find it hard enough to keep up with the brands I do like, most of the time. I know from a branding point of view, we tend not to look at things in a background way. We don't, from Dremel, we don't really care. Again, it's about that content-wise. I will say on the comment of the tools, you are not the first person to say power tools are made for big hands. Yep. Our development is done in the US, where males do tend to have bigger hands. That gets commented all the time in that this is great. It's too bloody big. It's great if you've got bare hands. I mean, from one of the very, very rare experiences I had when I first joined Bosch, I joined the HG team, and my director at the time was a female. And part of my interview process was, how would you market a tool range for female users? And I just thought, oh crikey, how on earth do I do this? I'm assuming I did a pretty good job because I got the job. But the first couple of slides, she went, oh, thank God you haven't made a range of pink power tools, because everyone else has. It's like, and again, maybe this is my naivety to go, well, everyone's the same. No one wants the, well, some people do want pink.
I wouldn't use pink power
yeah,
because I don't like the colour.
So you don't, there shouldn't be a differentiation. Okay, maybe sometimes we should make smaller tools. And I know we did with the Stylo Plus, that comes out of our Asia Pacific market, where they said we don't want a low powered tool that's small, that we can use. So I do think power tools sometimes have to think of the user, and to encourage those users, we do need to think about how we develop our products. Admittedly, on the flip side of that, we are producing lots and lots of tools every time. So to suddenly switch SKUs does cost a lot of money, but I do think there should be more encouragement from our side, whether it is from a content point of view and encouraging people from any kind of backgrounds to, okay, do people not get involved because they can't physically use the tools? If they can't, we need to look at ourselves and bring something to market that does help and encourage. We've kind of covered all the points on that. Phew, minefield done. So, we have, I did think that the internet had broken, but we have a comment. So proud that Kez and Daisy are there speaking out. Go for it. You are representing the rest of us, even us older women. That was in brackets. I don't know if I should have read that out. Age is not a thing. Anyway, but yeah, so thank you very much for sharing your experiences. I know
It's actually quite nice.
It can't be easy.
Not that it's not nice that you've had the experience that you've had, but it's nice that we've had different experiences, and it comes from different sides of the coin as such. Although I'm sad to hear that, what's happened.
So we've got 5 minutes left. We actually might finish this live stream on time. Like, yes, look at us go. It's always down. It's not down to my timekeeping. It's down to you guys. So
You blaming us now?
always, just because I can. And you can't swing at me because you're too far away.
I can lunge.
We can all lunge, darling. Sorry, that sounds awful. Stop talking, Andrew. Pass the mic over. Moving down the benches, is there anything you would like to make a point, whether it's about content, diversity, power tools, anything that we've discussed or experienced today that you would like to pass on? And we'll start with Rob, because we've not heard from you in a little while. So to put you on the spot, mate.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah, I didn't think it was right to add anything after what you said, Daisy, just because it was just so poignant. It just, yeah, it's shocking to hear those things. But hopefully things are changing. Hopefully. But I mean, on a note of trying to improve as someone who wants to get into content, building things, creating things, if you're leaning more towards sort of the digital side in terms of creating videos, this is where I can probably give the most amount of feedback. It is a place where stories are king, content is king. You can't really go into something now without having a narrative that pulls people in, that draws people in. You could create one of the smallest, sort of least interesting things possible. Okay, an example from my own point then. I made a desk. A few years back, I made a fancy desk for my studio, and it's on YouTube, made it with Matt Esley, and essentially it's a slab of wood and 2 legs. We made a 40-minute video out of that. Realistically, shouldn't have happened, but we got 40,000 views on that video with people saying, I can't believe I just watched all of that. I can't believe you made me sit through a desk creation from start to finish where it's just a plank of wood and 2 legs. You can still find it online now if you want to go and have a look at it.
They still watched it.
Yeah, they still watch it. Exactly. But point being, whether or not we meant to do it at that time, like in hindsight, there was this narrative. There was me having a joke with Matt. The whole thing was just mistakes and laughs, and just it was a journey. It was a journey that they watched rather than this product being made. Exactly. So if you've got a partner, yeah. Oh, have you seen it?
Probably.
Yeah. So it's those sort of things. If there's 2 of you, you can make that sort of thing work. But if you've got something that you don't think is very interesting in terms of building a story behind, just think, like, there are going to be, out of everyone in the world, out of the 7 or I don't know how many billion people there are now, there's always going to be someone like you who wants to build something like you, who's inspired by something like you. So build your story no matter what it is, and you will find your audience. It's the definition of finding your niche, finding your target market, essentially. Whether or not you're trying to sell to them, it could just be that you're doing it for your own entertainment. But create a story that's really going to capture people and make it authentic, and you'll get the viewers, you'll get the followers, and you'll get the you'll get the sales on the products, I would hope, and you'll feel right in doing it, rather than you could imagine quite a few channels, quite a few social media gurus who might just go along and say, just make it up, just be like the people on X Factor, make up a story and you'll do well. No, be honest, be true, and really think about the content that you're putting out there. Don't just go there without a plan. That was deep. I'm sorry. Not as deep as earlier, but I don't want to take away from that. But
No, man,
I've dug myself into a hole. I'm passing it over.
No, I thought that was. I've forgotten what the initial question was. I was a bit lost in that.
Is there anything that you would pass on, or any comments about the discussion, the topics we've raised, or anything you think you would like to pass on to new makers or existing makers out there?
I think Rob did it. I think the most important thing to remember is the only thing that's going to hold you back is yourself. Like, if you feel self-conscious, realistically, no one cares if you put out a video and it gets 10 views. I think it's so important to be kind to yourself and encourage yourself, because, as I say, the biggest obstacle that I see in people who are so self-defeatist is that they are telling themselves the things that they think they deserve to hear. And the moment you get rid of that, it's not only very relieving, but it opens up a lot of opportunities. So that's what I'd say.
And I just say, if you want to be a maker, jump right in. Don't care, have fun, and just jump in.
And buy a Dremel. What? I have a joke. No. So I would just quickly, because I need to wrap it up. Just be authentic. Be you. Be honest. Make sure the collaboration works for both of you. Don't be afraid to approach brands. Just understand that you might get knocked back now, but that doesn't mean you won't get knocked back in future. But yeah, just keep making and make sure you try and involve as many people as possible, and don't be afraid to post about it, or who cares about likes? It's just good fun. Whenever I get to use the tools, it is a lot of fun. I remind myself how much fun it is. But I'd like to thank Rob, Daisy, and Kez. Thank you very much for your hard work today and for sharing your experiences on there. If anyone has any questions or needs any advice, I'm hoping they feel free to contact you guys. Obviously, you can contact Dremel UK as well. And I will definitely take the feedback that we've had about smaller handle Dremels to our product development team in the US. So thank you very much for joining, and I hope today has been helpful.